At some point, you started treating silence like a skill, like it meant you had everything under control. But control is just a polite word for a cage you built yourself. She asks you something and you look at the table, not because you don't know what you think, but because something in you has already run the math on how this conversation ends and decided the answer isn't worth the cost of getting there. So you say fine, you say I don't know, you say it's nothing, and the conversation moves on. And part of you, a small part, feels relieved afterward. It probably started making sense at some point. Maybe you said the real thing once and the conversation got louder instead of clearer. Maybe you explained how you actually felt, and the other person immediately started trying to solve you instead of hearing you. Maybe you just noticed that saying less made interactions feel lighter, simpler, more manageable, so you kept doing it. That's the thing about silence. It's not something people choose all at once. It's more like slowly lowering the volume on yourself until eventually nobody notices the difference. After enough disappointment, people stop entering life naturally. Not dramatically, just gradually. You leave a little more distance between what you actually feel and what you allow out loud. You answer shorter. You stop giving people the second layer because halfway through explaining the first one, you already feel tired. Eventually, people stop asking follow-up questions, and some quiet part of you mistakes that for peace. This is especially common in men who are otherwise very functional. During the day, you're fine, sharp. Someone asks you a question at work, you answer it. Someone needs a decision, you make it. You move through the world without hesitation. But then you're sitting across from someone you actually care about, and they ask you something real. How are you actually doing? And your brain does this thing. It just shuts the door. Now, not from lack of feeling, from too much practice avoiding places that used to cost you something emotionally. You pick up your phone. You get up and refill your water even though the glass is still half full. You say, I'm fine, I'm just tired, and both of you know what that means. Eventually, life starts feeling safer to monitor than fully enter. That's the part that's easy to miss. Because from the outside, you still look fine. You're still functioning, still showing up, still competent. But there's a difference between being present somewhere and just physically occupying the space. You can sit through an entire dinner already preparing your next response before the other person finishes speaking. You can hear someone say, I miss you, and immediately start trying to reduce the emotional weight of the moment instead of letting it land. After enough time doing that, it starts sounding like personality, like I'm just private, like I don't really talk much. But restraint and disappearance aren't the same thing. Some men, when they start noticing this, get tighter, more controlled. Like if they can just keep conversations smooth enough, measured enough, emotionally level enough, they can avoid the parts that make them feel exposed. It doesn't work. You can't organize your way into closeness. Other men start doing something smaller, answering a second question instead of stopping at one, staying in the room a little longer when things get uncomfortable instead of immediately redirecting the conversation. It sounds too simple to work. But for a nervous system that's been bracing for a decade, staying for that second question is an act of war against your own isolation. That's usually when something starts changing. A lot of people aren't emotionally closed off. They've just been bracing too long. There's a difference. Closed off sounds permanent. Bracing is something your body learned to do because at one point, it worked. You learned that silence created fewer misunderstandings, fewer openings for conversations to turn sideways. You learned how to keep things contained, and eventually containment started feeling safer than honesty. Now you can feel the distance everywhere, not just from other people, from yourself too. You still leave texts unanswered longer than necessary even when you want to reply. Still pace around the kitchen while deciding whether you feel like talking to anyone. Still replay conversations afterward, wondering if you revealed too much or not enough. That's not emotional unavailability. That's someone who got careful. Someone who started associating openness with recovery time afterward. The only problem is that eventually caution starts feeling responsible, and loneliness starts sounding self-protective. Some people don't stop caring. They stop expecting life to surprise them in good ways. That's the shift. Not hardness, just recalibration. You start preparing for disappointment before anything has even happened, because disappointment feels easier to carry when you saw it coming first. But that mindset quietly filters out good moments too. The conversation that actually felt easy. The person who listened without turning you into a project. The moment you almost said the real thing and stopped yourself out of habit. Not because life got easier, but because you were slightly more available for it. Some people, when they start noticing this, slowly move back toward themselves. Not dramatically, they just stop ending every vulnerable moment early. They let conversations breathe a little longer. They say, "I don't really know how to explain this yet," instead of pretending there's nothing there. They stop treating every emotional interaction like something that needs to be controlled before it becomes real. Other people stay quiet a while longer, not because they don't want connection, because they're still trying to figure out whether openness is actually safe now. Both of those happen. Both are real. The question isn't whether you feel things, you clearly do. Otherwise, none of this would hit the way it does. The question is whether the silence is still protecting something necessary, or whether it's just become a habit your identity wrapped itself around over time. Part of you still wants more from life. It's just stopped speaking first. You don't have to become loud to reconnect. You don't have to force vulnerability. You just have to notice when you've been standing outside your own life pretending observation counts as participation. Because there is still a version of you underneath all this that knows how to stay. Not manage the moment, not monitor the room. Just stay long enough for something real to happen